Hey guys, this is Elliot the iPad Pro, and in this video I'm going to show you how to launch your website, business, or lab using Google domains. So in previous videos, you saw how I built websites or how I launched the platform IO, which allows you to do programming in any language. And you might have noticed that your website always has a kind of funny name, which is this series of numbers. This is called the website's IP address. But let's say you wanted to give your website your own unique name. For instance, since I'm running IO, what if I want my website to be called www.io.computer? Well, now we see that I attached my IO website to io.computer, so I can type that whenever I want to go to the site. So how did I actually do this? Well, it turns out this is actually really easy to do, and we just use something called Google Domains. Now, for most of you, that's probably cool enough to make you start using Google Domains, but it is way more powerful than just that. With Google Domains, in minutes, you can set up your business's email for all of your employees, and then you can also give them things like Google Docs and Google Excel. What's even more crazy is that if you're a tech company or a lab, you can set up your entire computing system for people to do coding in any language on any device in minutes. I'll show how all of this is done by the end of this tutorial. So how do you actually set up a name for your website? Well, you can do this by going to Google Domains, which can be found at domains.google, or you can just Google Google Domains. Then what you do is you search for a name for your website. For instance, let's see what we find for my name. We see a lot of the common names like myname.com or myname.org are already taken, but there's some other ones like myname.business. If you click all endings, then you'll get a full list of all the different website names that start with my name. There are some really fun endings for website names on Google Domains, so I definitely recommend going through all the endings to see if there's some interesting ones that you like. myname.fun sounds cool, so let's try clicking that one to get it. Then what you do is you go to your shopping cart. Now from here, you sign in using your Gmail account and you provide a card number to buy the domain name. Once you have your domain name, you'll come to a home screen that looks something like this. Now let's say you want to access your website, which in my case is currently just called this list of numbers, with the domain name that you just purchased. I'll show you the steps to do this using my domain name, elliot.pub. First, click Manage for your domain, and then click DNS. So DNS stands for Domain Name System, but what it really is just the place where you set up the website you created with the name that you like. I'll now show you how I set up my websites with a domain name. So the first thing I do is I click Enable DNS Security. This protects your website against certain types of cyber attacks. Now another security feature is you have to give the website that you just created at a certain IP address permission to talk to the domain name that you created. This is done under the Registered Hosts section. For instance, we can attach www.elliot.pub to the IP address of my IO website. Enter the information for your domain name and IP address and then click Add. Now we're finally to the step where we attach our domain name to the IP address. This is done in the section called Custom Resource Records. You can set up the Custom Record section just like how you set up registered hosts. First, type where you want the website to go to, for instance, www.elliot.pub, and then put in the IP address. Then just click Add. And that's it. Everything's set up for your website. So instead of having this weird string of numbers, you can then instead type www.elliot.pub. When you first go to your website though, you'll probably come to an error page that looks something like this. But don't worry, it just takes the Google system a few hours to set up your website's settings. They say it can even take a day, but I've never had it take that long. But as proof that this actually works, we can check out my website, www.io.computer. You can see that I set up the DNS section just like before, where I first enabled DNS security, and then I set the registered host, www.io.computer, to the IP address. And then I created a custom resource record, which also set www to the IP. Now, when we go to the website, www.io.computer, we see that the IO site is there. And, by the way, in the amount of time it took me to show you that, when we go back to www.elliot.pub, we now see that it brings you to your IO website. So that's it for setting up your website. But you may have remembered that at the beginning, I said that Google domains can be used to set up all of the tech for your business or your lab. So how is that possible? So now I'm going to show how to give everybody in your business an email account, or how to give them access to Google Docs or Excel, or how to give them even a computing environment that lets them code in any language. So let's say Elliot.pub is my bar, and I want to give everyone in the pub access to this type of technology. First, I'll go to Email in the settings. Then I'll click Get G Suite, and then click Next. Now you can type the information in for your employee, and you can give them a specific email address. Next, we then choose the plan. The basic plan costs only $6 per user, and that's probably all you need when you're starting out. Then all you have to do is review your purchase and then finish your order. And that's it. Your employee's information is now set up. If you ever need to do something like resend their temporary password, you can go to Edit and then Reset Password. And now everything is set up. This is how you give everybody in your company or lab access to things like email or Google Docs or Google Calendar. But let's say you're a tech company or you're an academic lab. How do you give everyone at your place the ability to do coding and to communicate with one another? Now, this might sound like a really hard problem that will take IT guys months to set up for you. But it turns out it's actually easy, and you can do it in just a few hours on an iPad. Well, to do this, we're going to use a really cool coding platform called Jupyter, which is basically like a website where you can do all of your computer programming in that website. So Jupyter was originally made to just really work with Python. But I created my own version of Jupyter called IO. And in that, I have it so your computer is automatically set up with all the most popular languages like C++ or Java or R. So I'm going to show you how to use Jupyter as a coding platform for everybody in your lab. If you want a little more information about what Jupyter or IO is, you can check out my video that's on the home screen of my channel. So if you're familiar with Jupyter websites, the first thing you might think to do is just to create one website for everybody in your lab, and then just to give each lab member their own folder where they can write their code. And this is actually something that I do when I'm working with other people on small projects. But you run into a lot of problems if this is the main computer that each person in your lab is using. For instance, different people will want to use the computer for different things. So one person might want to set up the computer for neural networks, where another person might set it up for developing websites. And those pieces of code could actually conflict with one another. Also, what happens if one person accidentally breaks the computer that everybody is using? So to get around these problems, I'm going to show you a really easy way to set up everybody's computers that uses Google domains. By the way, if you do want to set up a little mini project in a Jupyter website, what I recommend is that when you create your computer on Compute Engine, you create a machine that has more CPUs than just one. This ensures that everyone will be able to run their code without it lagging. So how do we actually use Google domains to solve this problem? Well, remember that I just showed how to give each one of your employees their own email address. Also, remember that to use Google Cloud, all you need is to sign in with a Google email. So the basic idea is this. Instead of having one Jupyter website inside one cloud project where each person does their coding, why don't we just have each person have their own Google Cloud account? And then each person can create their own Jupyter website in whatever way they want. Then we use the application I made called IO Online, and then everyone can use that application to share their work between one another. So we're basically just using the cloud to solve all of those problems that people have when they work on a server together. And this is super easy to do, especially when you consider that you've already made a Gmail account for each person. So let's say we want to create a place where employee@elliot.pub can do their coding. Well, then all we have to do is go to Google Cloud and then create an account for them. And remember that when you create a Google Cloud account, the first year that they use that account is totally free. Now, if you're wondering what the password is for that email, remember that when you created the Google account, you can actually have the password sent to your email right here. Then you can just go into your email to get the user's temporary password. When you click log into elliot.pub, you can change the password to what your employee would like it to be. Now, once you have the user's password, you can just use that to create the Google Cloud account. When you create a Google Cloud account, remember that you need to enter in an actual credit card number for the account. And you might be thinking, wait a second, what's stopping my lab member from stealing my credit card or from accidentally charging me like $10,000 by some mistake they made on Google Cloud? But don't worry, Google Cloud made it so that neither of these things is ever going to happen. So when you create your employee's Google Cloud account, you can check out the billing section of Google Cloud. There you'll find a lot of really awesome features. For instance, budgets and alerts sets how much money your employee can actually use during any month. Not only can you stop them from spending too much, but you can also have alerts sent to them when they're getting close to their budget threshold. Now, let's say your employee tries to steal your credit card. Well, if you go to payment method and you try to edit it to get a little more information, you see that you actually need to type in your CVC code to actually access the credit card. The really incredible thing about this setup is that each employee has access to the full power of Google Cloud. So if they want, they can create a neural network, or they can create their own professional website, or they can even build an entire supercomputer architecture from scratch. But most likely, they're probably just going to watch the introductory IO video so they can create a basic Jupyter website where they can do all of their coding. So now you might be wondering, if each person has their own clouding environment, then how do we actually work together as a lab? Well, for that, we use IO Online. IO Online makes it really easy to share your work with everybody else in your lab. So in other videos, I give an in-depth overview of IO Online, but here I'll just give you a real fast summary of what it's about. So when you open Welcome to IO Online, you can click the Web button to run the application. Then you'll see something that looks like this. So if you open the IO newsroom, you can see all of the latest things that people have been publishing on IO Online. And you can see that right now it has a lot of different people using the application. But let's say you just want to see what people in your lab are doing. Under IO Setup, you can choose the lab that you're currently in. So let's say you're in Yemi's lab. Now, when you go back to the newsroom, you can refresh it to see what things people have been uploading from Yemi's lab. It looks like someone just uploaded their amazing research paper. When you click download, you'll then download that application to your downloads folder in IO. Then you can open the application and just instantly run it with the web button that you saw before. IO Online also makes it super easy to share your work. For instance, under my public folder, I have a file that I've been writing called Project for Yemi's Lab. Now in IO Online, I can see that under Manage Files and inside my public folders, my Project for Yemi's Lab can be added to IO Online. Let's click the Add button and see what happens. So now, when we scroll down to the newsroom for Yemi's Lab, and we click the refresh button, we see the project for Yemi's Lab and the amazing research paper are now both there. So this was a super fast introduction, but I hope you can see that IO Online is a really great application for backing up your work and sharing your ideas with other people. Most importantly, IO Online is the tool that lets you set up your lab's entire coding platform using just Google domains. And a great note to end with is that people think cloud computing is expensive, but doing all of this is actually pretty cheap. I showed you how you can get a website where you can host your company or lab's page for just $12 a year. And then I showed how you can give each of your lab members or employees their own Google Gmail account for just $6 each month. And then, if you want to launch your own coding platform, it is free for the first year. And after that, if you want to keep costs down, you can just tell your lab members to choose a small shared CPU, and then that will cost you $15 per month for each lab member. So I hope this shows you just how incredibly powerful Google domains can be for your organization. If you enjoyed this video, definitely click the like and subscribe button. This is Elliot the iPad Pro. See you guys next video.